Commission is now in session. Please note the meeting is being audio recorded. You are your volunteer representatives appointed by our county councilperson or county executive and entrusted to monitor renovations and additions to our Baltimore County historic resources. You review and approve nominations to the Baltimore County preliminary landmarks list and comment on National Register nominations. Additionally, we review exterior alterations and developments impacting county historic districts and county landmarks and are charged with evaluating submissions to the Baltimore County Historic Tax Credit Program. Will the commissioners please introduce themselves by name and county council district or representation? We can go in the order listed on the PowerPoint screen.
Rob Brennan, District 1.
Phoebe Evans Latosha, executive appointment.
No, John.
Scott Holupka, planning board representative.
Ed Horde, executive appointment.
No, Vince.
Mitch Kelman, executive appointment.
Wendy McIver, Council District 3.
Steve, I think you're muted. There we go.
Okay, and Steve Meyer, executive appointment.
No, Faith Marina.
Marina Novaes, executive appointment.
No, Ray, and no Katub. So Chris.
Chris Weston, District 2.
Perfect.
Thank you all. Now let's please stand as we recite the Pledge of Allegiance. Pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America, to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
The Resource Preservation Commission operates under the authority, standards, and requirements of Title VII, Article 32 of the Baltimore County Code. We refer to the United States Secretary of the Interior Standards for Rehabilitation as administered by the National Park Service. This is the accepted national standard for historic preservation projects. Our own Baltimore County Historic Preservation Design Guidelines directly reference and incorporate the Secretary of the Interior Standards for Rehabilitation. We have important preservation issues to discuss and debate at each meeting. If you would like to make comments, please limit your comments to the specific preservation submission being reviewed. We ask for your assistance and understanding so that the discussions do not digress. As an additional comment, we can all agree that historic preservation is an important aspect of the quality of life and place that makes Baltimore County unique. As a commission, we seek to recommend significant buildings and places for landmark consideration to the County Council for their final vote. As commissioners, we serve on the commission due to our expertise, interest, and passion for historic buildings and places, and review submissions based solely on their merit. While we may disagree in discussion and voting, we continue to be a collegial body that represents each other personally and professionally. I think we are still in the virtual mode. What is our current status? We're still going to stay virtual for a while.
At least for the time being, we will keep everyone updated and posted as we know more. We haven't had any direction from the department heads. So since we are still virtual, staff will remind everybody attending that if you'd like to make comments, you can do so by using the chat feature or the raise hand feature. And if we know that you are tied to a project, we'll unmute you when your project is up for discussion. If you have any feedback to offer during discussion, though, you can put it in the chat box.
Thank you.
That said, next thing I'll say is that the information presented in this PowerPoint is purely a visual to keep the meeting moving along. All materials that applicants submitted were circulated with the commissioners last week, so they do have everything submitted. Again, this is just an overview and a visual.
Thank you, Tal, for the information. Before we proceed with our preliminary actions, we have a special presentation, which is the Greylock Mansion National Register nomination. Caitlin, can you present the National Register nomination for Greylock Mansion?
Thank you, Mitch. So the National Register of Historic Places recognizes districts, buildings, structures, objects, and sites for their significance in American history, archaeology, architecture, engineering, or culture, and identifies them as worthy of preservation. The National Register is a program of the National Park Service and is administered at the state level by the Maryland Historical Trust. The nomination process begins with submission of a nomination or a nomination application to the Maryland Historical Trust as the State Historic Preservation Office. MHT reviews the nomination for the National Register eligibility, appropriateness of format, and sufficiency of documentation. When MHT determines that the nomination materials meet the National Register documentation standards, MHT loops in the certified local government where the property is located. The CLGs play an important role, important part in the process of nominating properties to the National Register of Historic Places through a special working relationship with MHT and the National Park Service. Under this program, both the local Historic Preservation Commission and the jurisdiction's chief elected official are asked to provide recommendations concerning eligibility for the National Register listing. In Baltimore County, the body and official responsible for review and recommendation consists of the Landmarks Preservation Commission and the county executive. The commission and county executive will make a recommendation to MHT as the SHPO for or against nomination for listing on the National Register based on whether the nomination meets the National Register criteria for eligibility after a public hearing regarding the nomination. The commission and the county executive are in support of the nomination to the National Register. The nomination moves onto the governor's consulting committee. They work with the state historic preservation officer, and if everyone involved in the review is in support of the nomination, it is then forwarded to the National Register Office of the National Park Service for final action and inclusion on the list. So we have the Gray Rock Mansion. Just some background. It's located in Pikesville. It's currently a 2-acre plot that is improved by a 3-story Greek Renaissance style mansion or classical revival style. The property was originally improved in the late 1850s on what is the ancestral homestead of the Howards with a large Italianate county estate or country estate mansion. In 1923 to about 1930, the mansion was extensively renovated by A. Ray and Ethel Epstein Katz. Design elements on both the interior and exterior were replicated from 18th century landmarks in England and the United States. These renovations during that time resulted in the mansion's present appearance. The mansion currently has over 10,000 square feet area and is used as a meeting and wedding venue. Gray Rock Mansion is applying for the National Register under criteria B and C. The criteria B is a property is associated with the lives of persons significant in our past. For this nomination, it's the association with Ethel Epstein Katz and her father Jacob Epstein. Jacob had started Baltimore Bargain House, one of Baltimore's largest businesses. Jacob was also one of Baltimore's most prominent philanthropists. He had helped found Federated Jewish Charities and the United Hebrew Charities and was greatly involved with and a founder and board member of the Baltimore Museum of Art. And the National Register Criteria C is if the property embodies the distinctive characteristics of a type, period, or method of construction, or represents the work of a master, or possesses high artistic values, or represents a significant and distinguishable entity whose components lack individual distinction. So the house was originally constructed in 1857 in the Italianate style by N.G. Starkweather. And when it underwent extensive renovations during the Epstein Katz occupation, it was transformed into an elaborate classical pastiche, including a comprehensive remodeling of the exterior with the addition of a portico, adding a ballroom, and interior woodwork whose details are derived from various 18th century landmarks. I'll go into more of the details on that later. So the history of Grey Rock prior to the Katz's acquisition is worthy of documenting, but even though it does not contribute directly to its eligibility for the National Register. The land upon which Grey Rock Mansion stands as the birthplace of John Eager Howard, being a three-term Maryland governor, a prior member of the Continental Congress, a colonel in the Revolutionary War, and later a vice presidential candidate. Grey Rock is situated on land that was once originally part of the forest, one of Baltimore County's first land grants. 1,800 acres surveyed for Thomas Taylor in 1678. 150 acres was granted to Joshua Howard in 1698. It was then inherited by Joshua's son, Cornelius Howard, John Eager's father. The property was known as Howard Square because it resembled a carpenter's square. Joshua Howard built a two-story stone house, a dairy, and smokehouse, originally located behind where the current house sits. Joshua and his wife, Joanna O'Carroll, had 7 children. Joshua died in 1738, and the property was left to his son Cornelius and his wife Ruth Eager. During this time, the Howard's land holdings increased, and by 1763, Cornelius had owned over 17,000 acres, much of which included areas that would become part of Baltimore City. In 1750, Cornelius had commissioned Thomas Gift to build what would become Reisterstown Road. The Howards spent most of their time in Howard Square. Cornelius and Joanna had 11 children, and the most well-known one was John Eager Howard. Born June 4th, 1752 at Howard Square, John Eager Howard was one of the most prominent statesmen in the history of Maryland. When he was 24, he enlisted in the Maryland militia to fight in the Revolutionary War and eventually became a colonel in the Continental Army and commanded the 2nd Maryland Regiment, fighting in many important battles. He was severely wounded in the Battle of Eutaw Springs and received the Congressional Medal of Honor for his bravery and victory at the Battle of Cowpens in 1781, where he commanded the Continental Forces. In fact, a verse, remember Howard's warlike thrust in the official Maryland song, Maryland, My Maryland, is reference to Howard at Cowpens, where he led a bayonet charge where 80 British soldiers were killed and 600 surrendered. He was a delegate to the Continental Congress under the Articles of Confederation in 1787. Howard served as the fifth governor of Maryland for 3 one-year consecutive terms, from 1788 to 1791. Then as a state senator from 1791 to 1795. In 1795, President Washington offered him the position of the Secretary of War, to which he declined. He was elected by the Maryland legislature in 1796 to fill the Senate seat vacated by Richard Potts during the 4th U.S. Congress, and served through the 7th U.S. Congress in 1803. He also was a leading member of the Federalist Party. He died on October 12, 1827, and is buried in St. Paul's Cemetery in Baltimore. Howard County is named for him. Baltimore City has 3 streets named after him: John, Eager, and Howard Streets. And John Eager Howard donated the land for the Mount Washington Monument overlooking downtown Baltimore at Mount Vernon Place. Baltimore City would later commission an equestrian statue of John Eager Howard to honor him, which was erected in 1904 north to the Washington Monument at Mount Vernon Place. The Howards sold the property to a Dr. James Maynard in 1857. Maynard constructed Grey Rock Mansion between 1857 and 1861 on the former Howard estate, which is adjacent to the original Howard Homestead buildings. At that time, were falling into disrepair. And in this photograph, you can make out the structures directly behind the Italianate mansion. It was named Gray Rock after the natural gray stone which was used in its construction, which was covered with stucco. Architect Nathan Gibson Starkwater designed and built Gray Rock Mansion. Its architecture is similar to many of the other Starkweather's buildings and mansions around the Baltimore area. For example, the First Presbyterian Church, the neighboring church rectory known as Bacchus House, or the manse located at West Madison Street and Park Avenue in the Mount Vernon neighborhood. The mansion was originally a two-story Italianate structure with arch plating windows and a large front portico engulfing the house, with second floor balconies and a large rooftop cupola overlooking the property. In 1882, the Maynard sold the property to William B. Graves, and Graves lived there until 1909, and then it was sold to Mrs. Hooper Emery and her sister. And during this time, little changes were made to the house. In 1923, A. Ray and Ethel Katz acquired the property. Ethel's father, Jacob Epstein, founded Baltimore Bargain House in 1881, which was one of the largest mail order firms in the United States. By 1912, it had grown into one of Baltimore's largest businesses and had the fourth largest wholesale house in the nation. Later, it was renamed the American General Corporation, of which A. Ray Katz became vice president. Jacob helped establish the Baltimore Museum of Art, sat on its board, helped fund the Johns Hopkins Homewood campus, and played a major role in both the Federated Jewish Charities and the United Hebrew Charities, which later merged to become the Associated Jewish Charities. As a founding member of the Baltimore Museum of Art, his personal art collection was part of the museum's first collection, which included such works as Rodin's bronze The Thinker. Ethel followed in her father's footsteps as a benefactor and board member to the Baltimore Museum of Art. Ethel was also active with Associated Jewish Charities and made contributions to the Baltimore Civic Opera Company, and she helped found the Walters Art Museum and many other museums and art galleries. Her husband, A. Ray Katz, would become the president of Associated Jewish Charities. Mr. and Mrs. Katz continued a lot of these interests, and Gray Rock became a scene of many fundraisers and social events. And during the period of 1923 to the 1930, Gray Rock Mansion was extensively renovated by the Baltimore architect Benjamin Frank. And Frank specialized in 18th century restoration work and spent several years rebuilding the mansion following directions of Ethel Katz, who was very involved in the planning. The Salon of Whitehall in Anne Arundel County was used as the principal source for the entryway to the open air terrace, and the ornamentation was repeated in several other features. Whitehall was built around 1764 by Horatio Sharper, who was the colonial governor of Maryland. The scale of the ballroom at Gray Rock is about 2.5 times that of Whitehall. The window trim and that of the subordinate doorways had their origin in the Chase House, built by Edward Lloyd in Annapolis in 1770. The ballroom mantelpiece was inspired by one in the Mundy House in Dumfries, Prince William County, Virginia, built in 1756. The ornamentation, however, was taken from a doorway detail in the Salon of Whitehall. The only exceptions in the ornamentation are the shell and scrolls on the frieze of the mantel shelf, which were copied from a mantel in the Bryce House of Annapolis, built in 1740 by Thomas Jennings. The library was paneled in dark native pine to replicate the Sutton Scarsdale Hall from Derbyshire, England, from 1774 to 1727, which is exhibited in the Philadelphia Art Museum. From the above mantel, the elaborate carving of the original woodwork has been reproduced with all its intricate design of birds, fruit, and flowers. The fireplace face was also copied both similarly carved and in red marble. The drawing room at Grey Rock, which is opposite the library, is a replica of a room from Riderton Hall, a Tudor mansion in Lancashire, England, which was completed circa 1748, with the original room acquired and exhibited in the Philadelphia Museum of Art since 1927. The dining room was both lengthened and widened to double its size to be a replica of the Great Chamber Room of Mount Pleasant Mansion in Philadelphia, which was circa 1762. It was once the home of Benedict Arnold and his wife Peggy Shipman in 1779, but they never got a chance to move in. Mount Pleasant is in East Fairmont Park and is one of the grandest home ever built along the Schuylkill River. John Adams called it the most elaborate or the most elegant seat in Pennsylvania after visiting the estate in 1775. Major changes to Grey Rock's exterior included the changing the front portico. It was enlarged from 1 to 2 stories above the second tier windows and extended several feet to make it fully square with its corners of the house Greco-Roman peristyle. The front portico was redesigned to resemble George Washington's Mount Vernon in Virginia, except with 6 square columns instead of 8. The columns are identical to Mount Vernon's square recessed panel style. The second floor balcony balustrade, the double box X pattern, was identical to the balustrade that was added to Mount Vernon in the 1800s by Washington's nephew. The balustrade originally on Grey Rock's portico and above the ballroom. They were removed from Mount Vernon during its reconstruction in the 1930s, and were removed from Grey Rock's front portico. But the balustrade pattern still remains over the ballroom. Again, just a reminder, currently the property is now a 2-acre parcel and is being used as a meeting and wedding venue. And its period of significance is from 1923 to about 1930, and that's when the mansion was extensively renovated by the cats, which results in the mansion's present appearance. Staff has found that the completed research and documentation confirms that the structure is eligible for the National Register of Historic Places, and it's a recommendation to vote to support the Grey Rock Mansion nomination under the criteria of the NC.
Thank you, Caitlin, for that informative presentation. Do we have anybody present with us tonight that
Yes,
would like to speak or comment?
we do. Anne, I'm gonna unmute you. You're unmuted, Anne.
Can I just talk this talk?
We just want to say thank you. We're the Papakala family, and we are presently renovating and doing things. It was about ready to fall down. The furnace was leaky, noisy, and did not do the job, and finally raised so much smoke that we had to get rid of it. We've done a lot of electrical wiring. We've prevented a fire that started in the one of the bathrooms by putting in a lot of new wiring and also changing from to a breaker box. So we had to make a lot of these repairs just to keep that house from falling down. New roof because it was leaking so badly. We feel that this is a wonderful opportunity to preserve history in Maryland, and we hope to do well by the mansion and well for ourselves in doing so. Thank you.
Great, thank you very much. Is there a discussion amongst the commission members?
I move we accept the nomination.
I second it, Ed Horde.
So we have a motion and a second to nominate or approve. Is Taylor, would you like to do a roll call?
Yes, so I'll go ahead and call everybody's names. Just make sure you unmute yourself, please. Chris,
Yes.
Ed,
Yes.
John,
Yes.
Marina,
Yes.
Phoebe,
Yes.
Rob,
Yes.
Scott,
Yes.
Steve,
Yes.
Wendy,
Yes.
and Mitch.
Yes.
Perfect. So staff will go ahead and we'll get the documentation taken care of for that. And we will forward it on to the county executive's office. And then once they sign off on it, we'll send that documentation over to Maryland Historical Trust for further consideration with the Governor's Consulting Committee.
Thank you very much. Now back to our preliminary actions. Taylor, can you inform the members of the commission if there are any changes to the preliminary agenda?
Yep, no changes.
No changes. Thank you for that. And then assuming that all commission members have read the minutes of the June 10th, 2021 meeting, does anybody have any comment or changes to those minutes?
I move that we accept the minutes as documented.
Second.
Okay, and I'll just ask all in favor? All in favor of
Aye.
approving the minutes? There any nays? Looks like the minutes are approved. Thank you. It looks like there are two consent agenda items this evening, items 4 and 6. Taylor, would you like to read the staff recommendations?
Yes, thank you. First, we have agenda item number 4. This is the Heinrich property at 5124 and 5126 South Rolling Road in Relay. It's a contributing structure in the Relay County Historic District, MIP number BA 2521. The homeowners are seeking Part 2 approval for the in-kind replacement of a 50-year architectural shingle roof, the in-kind replacement of EPDM rubber roofs on both side porches, the in-kind repair and replacement of loose cedar shakes as necessary, the in-kind replacement of porch floorboards as necessary, in-kind repair and replacement of back porch wood steps as necessary, the reglazing of the original windows, and exterior repainting of the home, including the cedar shakes, trim, soffits, porch railings and posts, back porch wood steps, and wood shutters. Staff's recommendation is to vote to issue a certificate of appropriateness, citing Baltimore County Historic Design Guidelines, roofs, pages 2, 7, 10, and 11, facade materials, page 2, porches and steps 2 through 4, windows and doors 4 and 8, National Park Service Technical Preservation Services Preservation Brief number 10, exterior paint problems on historic woodwork, National Park Service Technical Preservation Services Preservation Brief number 47, maintaining the exterior small and medium-sized historic buildings, and County Code Section 112201. And then we have agenda item number 6. This is the Lock property at 722 Howard Road in Sudbrook Park. It's a contributing structure in the Sudbrook Park County Historic District, MIP number BA 3017. The proposal is the replacement of a deteriorated 14 by 16 wood barn style storage shed with a 12 to 14 foot by 18 to 20 foot wood country style storage shed. Staff's recommendation is to vote to issue a certificate of appropriateness, citing Baltimore County Historic Design Guidelines, Fences and Landscape, page 5, and County Code Section 327403.
Thank you, Taylor. Is there anybody present that would like to speak against the approval of these items? And if not, would the commission members like to have a discussion before the vote?
I move we accept the recommendations.
Thank you. Would you like to have a roll call?
We need a second, and then we can just do an all in favor.
I'll second.
Second.
Was that Phoebe?
No, it's Wendy.
Wendy, I'm sorry. She beat you to it, Rob. And all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? All right,
Thank you, Taylor. Looks like they passed. Motion passes.
sounds great.
Yeah, first
Alrighty.
item for.
Go ahead,
Our
Mitch.
first item- I'll defer to you. It looks like you're ready to talk.
Sounds good. Of course, I'm always ready to talk. Moving right along, we have agenda item number 5. This is the Davenport and Schleigelmich, I probably butchered that, property at 7 Waugh Avenue in Glendon. It's a non-contributing structure in the Glendon County Historic District, and the proposal is the expansion of the driveway by 93.5 square feet with 3 layers of stone/gravel to accommodate a recreational vehicle. The homeowners are seeking approval for the expansion of their existing driveway in order to accommodate an RV. Just as a note, before we delve into this review, the commission is only reviewing the proposal of the expansion of the driveway, not the storing of the recreational vehicle. The expansion will be 93.5 square feet of 3-layer crushed stone. The base layer will be a number 3 stone, which is 1 to 2 inches in diameter. The mid layer will be a number 57 stone, which is an angular stone ranging from 1/2 inch to 1 inch, and the top layer will be a crusher run stone or a quarry process stone, which is up to 3/4 inch in size. The gravel includes dust from the crusher process, which provides stability for this top layer. A letter of acknowledgement from Ms. Jean, the homeowner of 9 Waugh Avenue, is included in the meeting materials. Because the property owners are proposing to use natural materials that are permeable rather than, say, additional poured concrete, staff is accepting of the proposal as submitted and recommends voting to issue a certificate of appropriateness, citing Baltimore County Historic Design Guidelines, Fences and Landscape, page 1 and 3, and County Code Section 327-403.
Thank you, Taylor. Is the owner or owner's representative here present for the meeting?
Not that I know of.
Yeah, it doesn't look like. Yeah, they're not on.
Okay, so nobody's here. I just have a question. I know that Wall Avenue is becoming a popular little street for items that are coming before the LPC. It seems like this. I don't know whether it's a set of like 3 or 4 houses in a row that are. I think they're not contributing, but it seems like there's been some work done over the course of some time recently to improve the houses. With the exception of one that's pending right now, I think it's 7 Wall Avenue, or excuse me, I think it's maybe 5 Wall Avenue. Is everything pretty much up to date? Have people been coming in for different improvements?
So one thing I will chime in on, staff actually reached out to the Historic Glendon Association this past week. Looking back at our records, we have seen an uptick in code enforcement in Glendon specifically in the past, say, 4 months. And we're not quite sure what's going on and why these things aren't being flagged, beforehand, or why people are doing this work. So we have contacted HDI and we're looking to get information circulated to all of the homeowners. That said, I'll defer to Caitlin on what has or has not been approved, but just know that it's something that staff is working on behind the scenes.
My guess is that people don't realize they have to get permits for certain things, and realizing that you have to get permits for something that wouldn't normally require a permit that's in a historic district. That's just what I'm assuming.
Yeah, and that's why we're hoping to work with HGI to get some reminders out to everybody in the district. And then that's something that Caitlin and I have talked about getting out to all of our districts. It just seems like Glendon is a higher priority right now, just with the uptick in code enforcement that we have seen.
Getting back to this specific item, is there any discussion amongst the commission members?
Yeah, I'd like to add to your comments, Mitch. That work in that one photograph on this house appears more recent, and I know we haven't reviewed what appears to be a new addition and airstrip, concrete airstrip. And now they're coming in for the gravel addition to the driveway. So I don't know if they're being forced to do that by the county because of lot coverage and permeability, or they actually, new owners are actually seeking us out.
I can add that from a zoning standpoint, the regulations for storing recreation vehicles on a residential property. I believe they have a person who stores it, the vehicle has to be parked 8 feet to the rear of the front foundation line. So you'll see people that will extend their driveways along the side to be able to store something like that. So they're 8 feet behind, the front foundation line. If they don't do that, let's say they park the vehicle out front, they're going to get cited with a code violation. So, and I think that may be in their letter why they're extending that driveway. The other thing I want to mention, in a lot of cases, I think the zoning office, it may be by policy or regulation, is that that parking services must be, paved unless you're in the Chesapeake Bay critical area, where you have a pervious driveway. But that's really just a heads up. Once they park that, is only going to have an issue with it being, a non-global dustless surface.
So Rob, are you suggesting that this home is in non-compliance on some other issues?
I'm suggesting that, yes.
And so Taylor and Caitlin, then my question would be, is it appropriate for us to approve this when we suspect or know that they're out of compliance on some other issues?
You guys can still vote on this matter, since this is the only thing that's being proposed at this time. Their application is not for anything else on the house, so you only need to focus on the driveway.
Okay.
We can't act on any of the other items at this time.
Got it. Thank you.
Could we ask you to, we could approve this, but could we ask you to check and see if the house has been submitted and approved, if any additions have been submitted or approved? I think Rob's got a good question that it's worth doing a little investigation into it to see if they've done the proper thing for the house itself, the things done prior to this.
Yes, we can check on that.
Yeah, it looks like
Sorry,
things
I was just gonna say, we can look into that. It doesn't have to be part of the motion. I'll just make note to work on that in the coming week.
And maybe report at our next meeting if it looks like there's an issue, or if there's no issue, that we can just know that we can put that one to bed, and we are reviewing everything that we need by law.
Scott?
That being said, would anybody like to make a motion?
Before you do, Mitch,
Yes.
can you say again what the rule is about storing the vehicle?
I believe, and I don't have the regulations in front of me, but I think recreation vehicles have to be 8 feet towards the rear from the front foundation line. So you have your front foundation line or a lateral projection of that front foundation line. You push back 8 feet, and the vehicle's got to be stored 8 feet or further back.
That's what I thought, because when I'm looking at their drawing, though, it actually appears to be in front of the foundation line.
Excuse me, could I make we are not the zoning board.
Okay.
We're strictly reviewing it. That's sort of, we don't even know exactly if that's really exactly what the zoning law is, and that's not our job. Our job is just look acceptable from a historic perspective. Is this okay to do? The zoning folks will look at it. It's their responsibility to do that, and that's what they know. They're experts.
I definitely agreed. I brought that up as just their justification of why they were extending the driveway.
I understand, but we're not. It's interesting and it's good to know, but we're not sure that's exactly right. And let the experts do it, the zoning board, and they'll deal with it when it comes before them for a permit.
Agreed. So
Just to piggyback to answer Scott's question, though, it looks like they extended the driveway kind of diagonally so that they'll be able to pull in, and then they extended it back. So it will be behind the front foundation line, just so you know.
But I do, if they park it out front, they're gonna get cited for
Then
it.
they'll get hit, they'll get hit.
So it's,
Okay, so,
but that's not our issue, really.
I move that we approve the application.
A second.
Is that
oh,
Steve?
yeah,
That's Steve.
Perfect. We'll go ahead and do a roll call vote. So remember to unmute yourself.
good
Chris,
idea.
Yes.
Yep,
Ted,
Yes,
John,
Yes.
Marina,
Yes.
Phoebe,
Yes.
Rob,
If I vote no, will that throw it out? Do we have
Yeah.
a quorum? Yeah, I'm going to say no.
okay. Let me just write that down. Scott,
Yes.
Steve,
Yes.
Wendy,
Yes.
and Mitch.
yes.
Okay. Sorry, 1 second. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Yep, so the motion still carries even with Rob's no.
Thank you.
Okay.
So I believe we have one more item for discussion.
We do. We have agenda item number 7. This is the O'Hara property at 5008 Cedar Avenue in Relay. This is an infill home in the Relay County Historic District, and the proposal is amendment to the approved building plans. The homeowners are currently seeking approval for amended building plans. As a reminder, this is an ex post facto review and active code enforcement case. The code enforcement issue includes that no final inspections and/or use and occupancy permits will be approved until the homeowners have resolved the elevation changes with the LPC. The originally approved plans were approved by a technical committee on behalf of the commission in April of 2018 and were subject to field modifications in 2019, although no prior review from the commission was requested. The homeowners came before the commission seeking approval for the amended plans in November 2019, January 2020, and September 2020. However, the commission denied each request, informing the homeowners that they could file an application seeking approval to raise the windows on the right elevation in line with one another, or they could correct what was built to ensure it matched the approved plans. Staff has included the January and September 2020 meeting minutes in the meeting materials packet for review and to refresh everyone's memory. The homeowners have now submitted amended plans showing changes to the existing Palladium window. The change includes adding a 12/1 rectangle window in the center and adding flat raised header casings to all 3 windows to better align with the top of the other 3 windows on the elevation. The homeowners have attempted to address the commission's request of raising the Palladium window. Instead of raising the windows, the flat raised header will be added to add height to all 3 windows. No information about the new window or header dimensions were included. Staff encourages the commission to discuss this option as an alternative with the homeowner in hopes that the homeowner can address any questions or concerns the commission has. Staff feels that even though the window isn't appropriate and is out of place, the proposed changes are to some extent an improvement. Staff's recommendation is to vote to issue a notice to proceed for the amended plans as proposed, citing Baltimore County Historic Design Guidelines, additions and infill, and County Code Section 327403 and 327405.
Thank you, Taylor. Do we have the owner present with us tonight?
Yes, I'm gonna unmute you, Mr. O'Hara.
Yep, I'm online. Thank you.
Thank you for appearing. You can explain if you'd like.
Yeah, I was just trying to address the concerns that the committee had. I had submitted this with my architect to try to meet those requests, and this was an option that the architect suggested because of the landing. As we discussed last time, that it's kind of low, and if they were raised up higher, the landing is pretty much midpoint of the first level. So it would be very difficult to reach those windows at all. So this is what was suggested, and I'm hoping this satisfies the committee.
Well, thank you very much for your revisions and for appearing tonight. Do we have discussion amongst the commission members?
Ed, I think you're muted. I saw you trying to talk. There we go.
Could you please put up the photograph of that elevation, and we can just keep that in mind of what's there. Now, it's the bottom right-hand photograph, which has a band board running across above the window heads and a different color shake infill in that gable. Now go back to the plan they're submitting. So it looks to me like you're suggesting that you take off all the shingles and the blue siding and the band board. Is that what you're proposing?
No, it was just focused on the window itself.
Well, it's not accurate, and it's I just wish you would do a drawing that really reflected what you're doing. I think you need to go back to either one of two things: your original proposal, or take you can do 3 windows if you want, but move them up and align them with the other 3 windows to the left of those would be my suggestion. I'll wait. I'll listen to what people have to say.
Anybody else?
I would agree with Ed that raising the windows to the head height of the adjacent windows would be a better solution.
So we're okay with the 3 windows. It's just raising the height slightly to stay in line.
Well, and the windows should all be the same height, because if it is up, if we move them up to that point, right now, you've got the 2 smaller side lights look like they just missed it by going too low. The larger center window looks like it missed it by going too high. So nothing really aligns. It's all sort of,
The only thing I can say in response to that is there are a number of windows throughout the community that I did take pictures of where they have similar windows on landings that do not align with the property bedroom windows, hall windows at all. So it is not something that is uncommon during that period to have windows that weren't in complete alignment. It wasn't symmetrical in any way. There's a lot of windows, and I'm telling you, I've got probably half a dozen or more pictures of houses within the community that have which appear to be original windows, especially the house that I'm doing now on the Beaumont, where the window at the landing across the back of the house is offset probably at least greater than what is seen on my house right here. And it was common back then to do that with landings. So, to have it all in alignment is nothing that is unusual for any of that time period to make them in alignment. It wasn't symmetrical back then. So if you need those photographs, I have them here on my computer. I can show you how there's many properties that have windows that aren't in alignment. They're not all straight across.
I would be surprised if the windows normally a window in a stair would drop way down, so that it's not just missing it by a foot. It would probably be down closer to the landing height or something closer. The landing is half the level down from finished floor on level 2 to finished floor on level 1. So this thing is still high up, and you've just missed it. It's neither or nor. It's not aligning with the top windows, and it's not a stair window that dropped down half a level.
if you could take a look at the picture versus the plans, it's as close as they could come without measuring. So there's a definite distinguished difference between the others. And I'm trying to differentiate it being a landing window with, creating a header across the top, not to a line, because I'm not sure exactly what the committee's looking for when there isn't specific guidance other than make them straight across. And I thought it may have been the Palladium window that the committee was upset with or didn't approve of. However, I was looking to raise a header across the top of the windows just to differentiate it that, hey, this is not a bedroom window, because in the past, there were comments that it was, just didn't like it. It didn't seem fit. It looked like it was a mistake. Those were the comments that were thrown out over the past couple meetings. And, like I had noted before, that it's a landing that's across that level there. So it's at the proper height along one of the landings. And that's why it's offset.
I have a kind of a technical difficulty with where we are in this. So maybe someone can help me. I'm not clear on what we're approving, a drawing or a picture. And if we're excluding one and including the other, how do we even frame the resolution on that?
What I was going to ask, now that we've heard from Rob and Ed and the owner, are there other opinions from the commission members on where this proposed the proposed set of windows is being proposed?
Before we jump into that, I'll say to John's question, John, right now there's a set of plans before the commission. The property owner is proposing to put that header in that you saw on the next slide. And so if those plans were to be approved, the property owner would swap the plans out that are currently on file with the permit, and then he would redo that facade to match those approved plans. So that's the application that's before you right now. Should the commission have concerns about the elevation, say to Ed's point that the band board and the change in the siding are not shown, it could be approved, say, with the condition those details match. And in that case, staff would confirm that those details had been updated when we review the permit application and the plan submitted. That said, if you guys do not feel comfortable with that, or there's not a general consensus, you also have the option, as always, to deny or conditionally approve it, whatever you feel is necessary. But I just want to make sure that you are clear on what was before you right now.
Let me put it in play then, and suggest that we resolve this by approving staff recommendations as submitted.
I appreciate that. Thank you.
Can I just go back and ask the owner? I mean, is it a hardship for you to comply with Mr. Horde and Mr. Brennan's suggestions?
It is, because it's not a simple change. It's as you guys know, the siding isn't a vinyl. It's party backer. It's something that would require extensive work. It's just not a simple change.
Could you go back to the prior slides, the one that shows what was originally approved when they came to this? That's what was approved, the lower right-hand corner. Why didn't you build it the way that it was approved?
Well, as originally discussed, this property went through many iterations during the design of this. It was originally proposed as a stone and brick Tudor home. And it looks nothing like what we had planned to put on the property. So through 4 iterations of plans, this is what the architect put together to try to satisfy the committee. And windows had been looked at prior to that for the house, because they're custom ordered windows. I never expected a set of windows that we ordered, Anderson, to come up in the order of $85,000 worth of windows. So it was a long lead time. During the time that I had placed the order, when they asked me to sign off on the order, which was in February of 2019, my father passed away a week before the order was placed. I did not go through with a fine-tooth comb to look at the window order. The windows were installed when I missed our meeting in July when I was on vacation. When I came back from vacation, it was already installed. To order another window and leave it blank would have taken another lead time of 6 months, and in the project would have extended an additional 6 months, because the siding would have never been able to been complete. So me trying to expedite the project, because now we live in this home, and trying to get it done on time, because we were moving out of the house July of 20. It was not a feasible decision to make. So it wasn't in disrespect to the committee. It was because of the progress and timeline of the project.
So let me get this straight. You said you showed us these drawings in order to satisfy us, and then you went and ordered windows, which were different than the ones that you showed in the drawings, and now they were put in, and then you discovered it, but you said they're already in. It's too much time, too much money to change it. I'm just going to go with it, and
well, I mean,
here's what I got approved. I'm sure you're thinking, well, they'll just accept it. And it's a very different window. It's a very different thing, and it does not match. It doesn't meet it. And I think it's not appropriate. So that's my feeling.
That is, a rudimentary argument that you have on my behalf, but that I was not thinking, oh, they're just going to approve it anyway, just move forward. The idea is that I didn't have a choice to set and not continue with the project. I've been building houses for 15 years, and having a 4 to 6 month delay with the construction, it's not just that. I mean, it throws off everything. It's timing. It's your trades are involved. They're staged. It's planned, and anybody that has taken on a large customized construction like this would know that it's very challenging. So I do build houses in the area. This house is, of course, my own. However, it's very different than houses that I built. I typically build a 1,900 square foot home that's pretty square. And, to say the least, this house was very challenging. So
I do agree with Commissioner Horde that here you are telling us how experienced you are in construction and so familiar with it and have been in this business for 15 years, and yet you knowingly let them change the plans without our approval, and certainly that mitigates against our accepting the motion. I just put in play. I don't find it a very convincing conversation that you made the change, frankly.
And I also wanted to say that, this is the third time that we've seen this for the same window. If you had like order the right window, you wouldn't be like that far behind, like the problem would be solved and everything was fine by now. So you're insisting to do something that was done after the fact. And I totally agree with the other commissioners that that's not a very good excuse, that we have to accept it because you're on vacation and, like, this is not a good excuse.
Well, as I mentioned, that the tail end of this and the beginning of this discussion is a repeat. I tried to, see if the committee would compromise with me in some way because of this slip up and getting something approved that is consistent with the neighborhood. Everybody that's been around the house knows that it's beautiful and that, I have discussions with them about this window and they don't even know what I'm talking about. So of course you guys have an eye for the consistency, I guess, within the neighborhood, but the neighborhood is truly eclectic. It's a new home. Like I said, there's different elevations of the windows throughout the neighborhood on old and new houses. So I hope that I'm not being punished just for the sake of being punished because it wasn't approved prior to. But again, there was a lot of circumstances that put me in this predicament, and I'm just really pleading to the committee to accept my proposal to try to move forward with this, so I can be joyful that I'm living in this neighborhood. I love it here, and I've got a county issue now, and we have nothing else. I have nowhere else to go, and I'm trying to get this approved. So
Thank you. We appreciate your input and what you're telling us. We've heard from several commission members. Any other members like to comment on this?
Yes, Mitch, this is Wendy. I just, as a little bit of common sense, if you have to change the windows anyway, why would it be more difficult to go back to the original plan? Because that was approved and you have to change it. So why not just go back to the original plan and then, you'd be finished with it.
Right. Understood. Well, with that being said, we've heard a lot of comments and testimony. Does anybody at this point want to make a motion?
We have a motion on the floor.
We don't have a second. We don't have a second.
John, do you want to leave your motion? Your motion as is was to issue a notice to proceed.
Yes, frankly, I'm going to vote against it, but we have to have the motion.
We don't have a second. You can pull it.
I was just going to say, since we don't have a second and we haven't voted on it, you can withdraw it.
We can let it die without a second. I'm fine with that too. Yes.
Okay, so you're withdrawing your motion. Is there a new motion?
This is Chris. I don't feel that the elevation is well composed, but at the same time, I don't feel it's deleterious to the neighborhood. And so I am going to make a motion to approve the nomination or the proposal as submitted by the board or the committee.
So that is a motion to approve the plans as proposed.
I'm making a motion to approve the plans as proposed.
Okay, so we need a second on that.
I'll second.
All right, we're going to go ahead and do a roll call vote. So please make sure you unmute yourself. Chris,
Yes.
Ed,
No.
John,
No.
Marina,
No.
Phoebe,
Yes.
Rob,
No.
Scott,
Yes.
Steve,
No.
Wendy,
No.
and Mitch.
No.
So with 3 ayes, the motion does not carry, so we need a new motion.
Would anybody like to make that motion?
I'll just throw something out there as a potential solution. I move that the 3 window heads align, but the window sills drop to the current sill height. So all 3 windows are the same height and taller than the existing adjacent windows.
Are you saying you want the top of the windows all to be the same height?
Yes.
Raise the,
With windows to the left.
raise the headers on all 3?
Headers are all the same. You can leave the sill where they are, is what Rob's suggesting.
Okay.
Do we have a second on that?
Second that.
Alrighty.
Okay, Tara, can we have another roll call?
Yep. 1 second. I gotta flip my pages again. I shouldn't be taking notes on 2 separate pages. Alrighty, here we go. Chris,
Yes.
Ed,
Yes.
John,
Yes.
Marina,
Yes.
Phoebe,
Yes.
Rob, Scott,
Yes.
Steve,
Yes.
Wendy,
Yes.
and Mitch.
Yes.
Okay, so that motion is approved. It passes unanimously. So Mr. O'Hara will be in touch via email tomorrow, but you can have your architect make those changes, and then you will have to swap out the plans that are on file with the permit prior to making those changes. Sound
What
good?
I would urge him to do is to make the elevations what's actually there. Put the band boards in on all the elevations and the different material in the upper part and the gable parts. I think you need to show what's really there in order to have what you actually have.
Right. I understand. I will make those changes. Thank you.
Alrighty.
Thank you.
Alrighty, so that was the last item that we had up for discussion and vote tonight. Only other business to report on is that we do not have a meeting in August, so enjoy your summer off. We will see you all in September. Does anyone else have anything they'd like to chat about or bring to our attention before we adjourn?
Will we see you in September, Taylor, or will you be gone?
I think it just depends. I've agreed to help out Caitlin until they can fill my role. So I'll still be around for a while. And of course, everyone has my email, and I love to hear from you all. So please don't be strangers, even if I am gone.
Thanks.
Question,
Thank you.
are you projecting when we might meet again in person?
We are not sure at this time. That has been a conversation in our office, specifically with our department heads and our director and deputy director. But at this time, we have no guidance. As soon as we know something, you guys will know something.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Anything
Yeah,
else? Not, can we have a motion to adjourn?
I was going to ask that. Is there a motion to adjourn, or do we want to stay on for a little while longer? So we talked about recreation vehicles and how far they got to be parked behind the front foundation line of the house.
I think we need a discussion about that before we go.
Not our purview.
But in Moncton, they're exempt, right?
I move we adjourn.
Second?
Second.
Perfect. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed?
Thank you.
I didn't
Thank you.
think so. Have a good
Great
one, guys.
weekend.